It is that time of the year. It is time for us to do our preseason predictions for the West Virginia Mountaineers football team for the 2025 seasons. For those of you who have been asking me for a preseason prediction on social media and I've been refusing to give you one, now's the time. My co-host Jonathan here, and we're going to give our predictions. What's up, Jonathan?
Couz, what's going on? Hey, I got to tell you, this is funnest. Is that a right word? This is
Most
one of
fun.
the most fun episodes we do.
Yep.
We were talking earlier how we kind of started this obviously last year, the first season we kicked this show off, and it was a lot of fun to kind of follow that through the season. I don't know that we made ourselves any smarter. But you know what? It's fun to kind of not put predictions on paper, but actually speak them out and kind of look back. And this season has a lot of excitement around it anyway, right? And so this is something that we've both been asked to do, and we've both held it off for tonight's show.
Yep.
So this is one that I really look forward to. So I'm excited to kick it off, mainly because that means football is right around the corner.
That's right. And for those of you who either are just joining us or maybe this is your first time watching the Gold and Blue Breakdown show, which, by the way, this is episode number 39, I believe. Or just as a reminder for those of you who do watch, Jonathan and I typically don't share notes before the show, so that way you know, you get real time reactions. So we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and kick it off, man. Let's just go ahead and start off with game one of the season. I probably don't need to spend a lot of time on this one, but it's August 30th, the first game of the Rich Rod 2.0 era against Robert Morris, the lone FCS opponent on the schedule. What you got, Jonathan?
Yeah, again. You said it best. Probably don't need to spend a ton of time on this. If we do, we've probably got more problems than we think running down this schedule. Yeah, it's a win for me. I don't think there's much. This is going to be win aside. Okay, I guess a little bit of a discussion here would be just kind of the anticipation of the game. Rich Rodriguez actually returning. That's kind of the official. We're going to see him run out.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of storylines. Obviously, the turnover. You're really going to put faces and jerseys, uniforms, whatever, with names.
Right.
You're going to see these people that we've talked about, other writers have talked about. We might settle a quarterback battle.
Maybe.
Maybe, but even Coach Rodriguez has said, you'll know, and if we get the ball first, about 2 minutes after. And so for me, it's not as much of a win. That's if there's a given on this schedule, and I don't know that there's a ton of those. This seems to be one where you just chalk down the W. It's
Yep.
more storylines inside of the game for me, and kicking off the season with Rich Rod back at the helm. So it's a win for me.
Agreed. I'm not really going to elaborate on this one too much. It's an FCS opponent. By gosh, you better win this game. But it's obviously a W for me. Like you said, it's a lot of storylines inside the game. It's the exciting part about this game is just the fact that Rich Rod's back, and it's going to be cool to see him run out on the field with the team, for the first time.
Yeah.
This, since coming back and all that. So yeah, a W for both of us. So we both have them starting out 1-0 against Robert Morris.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and jump over to week 2, September the 6th. They travel to Ohio to take on the defending MAC conference champions, or Mid-Atlantic Conference, whatever that conference is called. It's the MAC. The defending MAC champions, the Ohio Bobcats. Rare that you see them playing an away game against a G5 opponent, but here we are. What are your thoughts and your prediction for this game, September 6th at Ohio in Athens?
Yeah. First off, I'll say I think it's a win for West Virginia. It is rare that a team would go to Athens, Ohio. That's something that was on that schedule several years in the making. Side note: have you seen the ticket prices for this game?
I have not.
They are They're up there.
Really?
Last I saw, pushing a couple $100 plus.
Is that the secondary market, I assume?
Secondary market. And
Is it
one thing,
sold out?
um, I don't know, but if you'll go to some of these secondary markets, tickets are high. Just
Hmm.
do yourself a favor and Google that. I think the primary reason is everybody, it's West Virginia fans wanting to flood Athens, Ohio.
Right.
So
Probably.
I would anticipate a large contingent of West Virginia fans there. You mentioned it. Ohio had a pretty successful season last year, but they've had some serious turnover there as well. And I think if all things are equal, West Virginia should win that football game again. Um, for me, when I started dissecting the schedule, Couz, if I'm struggling on Robert Morrison, Ohio, we've got a lot of problems as we trickle down. And so for me, I just feel like West Virginia is going to be stronger, faster, better coached. They'll have 1 week to kind of catch their stride a little bit. Maybe start to fill out certain positions and see who fits where, who jumps to this team, who comes down to that. But yeah, it's a win for me, and I have West Virginia going to 2-0 on the
Yeah.
season.
This game for me is one where you can, it's going to take a few games probably for a team with so much turnover to
Yeah,
gel. And I think it's good. It's a blessing that they don't have to start the year with a powerful opponent like Neil Brown had to do every year, because you're going to need a couple weeks to gel, right? And I
yeah,
think with Robert Morris and then with Ohio will be tougher than Robert Morris, or at least they should be.
sure.
But you still, West Virginia should be much more talented. They should be, like you said, better coached. Now, that being said, Ohio does have a good culture.
Yep.
They did lose their coach after, I don't know, 2 or 3 straight 10-win seasons, but they promoted someone from within to be the head coach. The offensive coordinator is still there. The defensive coordinator is still there. So there is some continuity on that staff, some familiarity there. Like you said, they did have a lot of turnover, not quite as much as West Virginia, but they do only return 10 starters total. Uh, but at the end of the day, it's a G5 opponent or G6, I guess now, opponent. West Virginia should win the game. I think they will win the game and move to 2-0 on the year.
Yeah.
Uh, but they can't take it for granted, because
Right.
Ohio. This is going to be it's going to be a big game for them, right? It's an
Yeah.
opportunity for them to prove themselves, and West Virginia cannot be caught looking ahead
Yeah.
to the next game, which I don't think they will, but they can't be caught looking ahead to this next game, which happens on 9/13
Hmm. Hmm.
against the team up I-79, the
Yeah.
Pitt Panthers.
Yeah.
What you got?
This is where it gets serious, right?
Yep.
I mean, if all things go, and you make a good point, Coos, you've got to be. I don't know much about the Robert Morris game, but rolling into Athens, Ohio, you have to be a little careful, right? Because they're certainly capable. And then what do you know is coming down the pipe? This am I crazy to say that there could be a more anticipated football game in fill in the blank?
Yeah, a long time.
A long time. We have already started to see the calls from Pat McAfee, Kirk Herbstreit about college game day has to be there. You almost kind of feel like in some capacity, McAfee and them will be there, with this something. It's a big deal. 9-13, you mentioned it. Um, I do think West Virginia wins the football game just because I want to be careful here. Pitt has a lot of good pieces. Okay, but here's the thing about Pitt that catches my eye a little bit. Are they the team that started 7-0 last year, Coos, or are they the team that finished 0-6? You know
That's
what I
fair.
mean?
Yeah.
Like which is the more accurate impression of this team? Is it the Eli Holstein that started the season on fire and there were some Heisman talks potentially, or is he the quarterback that eventually got hurt and but before the injury just, I mean, he almost disappeared. Um, So I'm just curious as to which team is Pitt. I will say it's going to be a tough test in a tough environment. If I had to give the edge, obviously, to West Virginia, I think it's the redemption factor. Um, I think having that game at home, uh, I'd really like that game to be at night.
Yeah.
Is it 3:30? And I think by week 3, West Virginia starts to kind of really feel themselves out. Um, the biggest thing about Pitt is they're pretty talented, not just offensively, but they're pretty talented on defense. That defense, Couz, returns 4 of the 6 players with at least 8 tackles for losses. They've got linebackers that have 17 plus tackles for losses. They're extremely talented on the defensive side of the ball, and if there are still question marks about West Virginia on the offensive side, if there's still a quarterback, if you if you still haven't figured out eligibility issues, who's your backup at running back, if the wide receiver room's still a little crowded, there hasn't been much separation. Pitt's got the defense to handle that. So something to watch out for, but I think West Virginia gets it done.
Yeah. This one was a tough one for me because on paper, Pitt's the better football team on paper.
Yeah, and I would agree with that.
They if you look at what West Virginia's going to want to do, they're going to want to run the football. According to Phil Steele, Pitt has the second best defensive line unit in the ACC. They return 3 starters up front. They have the number 1 linebacker unit in the ACC.
Yeah.
What do you need to stop the run? A good front 7, right? He called that linebacker core for Pitt the Sharks. 3 sophomores, all of them back. You talked about the tackles for losses. Kyle Lewis, 101 tackles. Rasheem Biles had 5.5 sacks to go along with a bunch of tackles. And Braylon Lovelace had 10.5 tackles for loss by himself. So those 3 guys right there are all playmakers. They're all back. They're all juniors this year with experience. And then when you flip over to offense, you talk about Holstein. If he's healthy, I think he's a good quarterback. You've got Desmond Reed coming back, who ran for darn near 1,000 yards a year ago, who and is just as talented catching passes out of the backfield. They do have question marks to me at wide receiver and in a few other spots, but I do think they match up well against West Virginia. But it's in Morgantown. It's a sellout game. Mountaineer Nation is going to show up and show out and be loud. Rich Rod will have his guys ready to play. I came real close to picking West Virginia to lose the game, but I just can't do it. So I'm picking West Virginia to win, and they start the year 3-0.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. I tell you, Pitt, and again, in addition to those guys on that defensive line and those linebackers, because they've got 3 defensive backs. I think it's 2 starting corners and a starting safety that are back. They did hit the transfer portal and got a key player out of UC Davis that was one of the I think it's the Big Sky Conference, one of their best defenders. 3 receivers coming back. I think there's 3 starting offensive linemen back. Dare we say Pitt on paper looks to be a really, really good football team.
I'm gonna say, and I hate saying positive things about them, but I think they're a dark horse to win the ACC.
And most people do. In fact, if you'll look at prognosticators or talking heads around college football, that's somebody that they're talking about. The question, though, for me is this a team that I said earlier that started out on fire, or is this a team that just completely fell off the map to end the season? There's your question mark, right? So this will be, and mark my word, Couz, this will go down as one of the most anticipated football games in history at West Virginia. It obviously has to do with the teams that are being played, but does it almost kind of just feel like the teams on the field are just a throw-in, right? I mean, it's all the other stuff. The Rich Rodriguez is back. Narduzzi always throws a little jab in there. He's already doing some of that stuff. Look at College Game Day coming back. The date on the schedule. Heck, you even go back to Beanie Bishop talking right before camp a few weeks back about, hey, we don't like them. They don't like us.
Yeah.
I just think that this will be This will go down as one of the good ones.
One concern I do have, Jonathan, to be honest, is with so many new transfers on the team, you're going to Rich Ross might have to manufacture some hatred. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Because a lot of most of the players may not now they're going to have time between now and the game because I'm sure they've already seen on social media the hatred, and I'm sure Rich Rod's talked about it and all that. But deep down,
yeah,
is that hatred really? Because I think Pitt's going to, most of these Pitt guys played it in the game a year ago. Some of them have played it 2 or 3 years.
yeah.
So West Virginia only has a handful of guys that have played it.
And Couz, that's a great point, and actually, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. Is are we going to start seeing with this portal activity when teams get into 40, 50, 70 plus players? Do those games start to kind of just fade away?
Mhm.
The meaning behind them a little bit. Something tells me that Rich Rod and maybe even somebody like a Nico Markiel and some of those West Virginia
Pat
offensive
White,
linemen,
Noel Devine on the
those guys were
staff.
still
Yeah.
around, and something tells me that Owen Schmidt may make an appearance or somebody.
Yeah.
It will get brought up. But yeah, and I think the bigger question, and one thing I'd ask you real quick too, is do you think that West Virginia needs to have some of these battles resolved by the time you get to Pitt, so that you've got a quarterback, you've got an established um, backup at running back, or are you okay if you go into week 3 and you're still rolling 2 or 3 quarterbacks out, or.
Well, I want Rich Rod to know, but I don't necessarily know that we will know. If that makes because he may play 2 or 3 quarterbacks for the first 2 weeks of the season just to if he thinks as long as he thinks they can win, just to keep Pitt from knowing who the guy's going to be.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so we may not know, but as long as he knows and there's somebody, and I would be okay if he plays 2 quarterbacks. I think, but I don't really want him to play 3. But my preference would be to have one guy who has separated himself by then,
Yeah.
but have a backup who's capable of coming in and winning the game if need be, kind of like Nico was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and jump ahead to the Big 12 slate, man. We've got West Virginia opening the Big 12 season on September the 20th, traveling to Lawrence, Kansas. They will be taking on the Jayhawks. Kansas has a brand new stadium, opening it for the first time this year. This will be not their very first game, but their very first Big 12 game inside that stadium. So they're going to be ready to roll. They're going to want to win this football game, meaning the Jayhawks. So I'm a little concerned about that. Kansas is also coming off a bye week. West Virginia is going to have to play one of their most intense, heated games of the year the week prior. Kansas is coming off a bye.
Yeah.
So I'll just go ahead and keep rolling. I've got this as a loss for that reason. I think West Virginia it's definitely a winnable game, and I think West Virginia has the ability to win a game. I mean, Kansas lost their top 6 wide receivers. They lost several guys on the offensive line. They do return Jalen Daniels and Daniel Hishaw at quarterback and running back, respectively. But man, only 2 starters back on a defense.
Yeah.
But again, they're coming off a bye week. West Virginia is going to be beat up, tired potentially. So I'm putting this down as a loss because it's on the road in that new stadium. Kansas, it's probably going to sell out. So yeah, I'm putting this down as a loss for the Mountaineers. Unfortunately, what you got?
Yeah. So far we are we're 4 for 4. I had this one down as a loss. I kept it as a loss. I do think it is a loss. But I have to say, Couz, admittedly, this is one I really bounced back and forth.
I did too. I actually
Um,
changed my mind twice on this one.
Yeah, so the weird part about this, the weird but yet cool thing about how we do this, and you spoke on it earlier, is we don't really discuss this at all, actually, and that's one reason why we kind of like to keep it surprise. But you gave every reason that I gave, and all the reasons we gave almost should put a West Virginia win down. Yet we went the other direction. I think Devin Neal's going to be a huge, huge miss for them. we're talking a running back, 1,200 yards, 16 touchdowns. I mean, he just flat out got the job done, Couz. Um, but I think that Kansas in a brand new stadium. It should be noted that this isn't their first game. They'll actually open the season with 2 games in the new stadium, but this will be the first Big 12 game in that stadium. Um, by the way, if you haven't seen videos and pictures, that place is awesome. Um, but I think that they're going to be a little bit more prepared now. It should be noted too that they do have a Missouri game prior on the road to Missouri. That's going to be a battle for them. But West Virginia coming off that backyard brawl. Um, now, a caveat being, if West Virginia does play well, does beat Pitt at home, they're riding that wave of momentum into Lawrence. But just keeping it as I believe, I think that's a loss, and I think West Virginia loses at Kansas, and that's got me at 3-1.
Yep, same here. 3-1 so far. Uh, week week 5 of the season, West Virginia comes back to Morgantown to face a team who many are picking to win the league, the Utah Utes. This game will take place on September the 27th. Kyle Whittingham and his team will be coming to Morgantown. What's your prediction on this one, Jonathan?
I actually have West Virginia winning this game, Coos. This was another, and
That's
this
a
is
hot
something.
take.
Yeah, well, this is something that you're going to hear me say a lot. Okay, this is one I just talked about it. I went back and forth on it. Let me first just say that Utah was a disappointment last season, right? Preseason number 10. And boy, oh boy, it was a long year. They've got no Cam Rising at quarterback. Um, they did go get New Mexico's quarterback, Devin, I think it's Dampier. They
Yep.
also actually hired New Mexico's offensive coordinator to come in. Now, Dampier is a little bit non-traditional from what Utah has done in the past. I mean, he's a dual threat. I think it was 1,200 yards, 19 touchdowns, threw for 2,700 plus, but he ran for like 1,100.
Yep.
I mean, this is a true uh, uh, changeover, I guess, from last season and what they're accustomed to. The question for me is Kyle Whittingham's a heck of a coach. He's a heck of a coach. And after last season, how prepared and what is the turnover for this season? Them making the trip to West Virginia, um, I just think something in me says West Virginia is excited to be back at home to open the Big 12 season. And I think West Virginia actually gets the job done and goes to 4-1 on the season.
Okay. All right. I like it. Uh, I've got it as a loss, unfortunately, because I just think Utah's going to be one of the top 1 or 2 teams in this league. I mean, you gave the stats on Dampier. They're also going to be really, really good on the offensive line. They have 2 guys who are probably going to be potential first-round draft picks. Their linebacking core is really good. They return Barton, was their leading tackle from a year ago. He's back along with some other guys. Kyle Whittingham always has a good defense. I look for that to be the same. Even last year, I mean, heck, if they had any semblance of an offense last year, they win 2 to 3 more games, maybe, if not
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
But they just didn't, because of the whole Cam Rising situation. But I like the fact that the quarterback and the offensive coordinator has some continuity together there, both coming from New Mexico. There's some question marks in the running back room, maybe some question marks at receiver. But man, you look at every other position on that field, they're stacked. And I just think they're going to be the better football team. I think West Virginia will play hard. I think they'll show up. I think fans will show up. But I think at the end of the day, Utah's a better team. And West Virginia drops their second straight game and drops to 3-2 on the season.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when I look at the schedule, I feel like I've got to find one, maybe 2 games where I say, okay, there's the one, right? That's the one West Virginia gets. And I don't want to give it all away because we're going to go through the rest of the schedule, but this one just kind of popped out at me as that's the one. So, crazy enough, the reasons I gave you that West Virginia should win the game at Kansas, but I had them losing. I take with I could give you reasons why West Virginia should lose this game,
Mm-hmm.
but I think they get it done. So I kind of flip flop that. But yeah, I just feel like when I'm scaling this, and there's a couple more, we'll break those down. This one just seemed to be like, that's the one for me. So
Okay.
I think that puts me at 4-2 and or 4-1, and you at 3-2. Correct?
Yes. All right. West Virginia has a short week, and October 3rd, which is a Friday night. A week after playing Utah at home, they have to travel out west to Provo, Utah to face BYU on a Friday night game. So it's a very short week.
Yeah.
They will have to really, whatever happens in that Utah game, they're going to have to turn the page like immediately because they'll be flying out to Provo probably on Thursday of that week. So it's going to be a tough turnaround. I initially put this down as a W because I think West Virginia, when I look at what BYU's has coming back, versus what they lost, I think West Virginia is going to be the better football team, talent wise. I mean, BYU, yes, they do return Chase Roberts at receiver, they return LJ Martin at running back, but they lose 7 starters on defense. We all know the whole situation around Jake Retzlaff. Who's going to be the quarterback? There's a 3-man race between freshman Barry Bachmeyer, Brayson Bourquette, and I think his name's McKay Hillstead.
Yeah.
Who knows what happens there? When you look at BYU last year, they won a lot of close games last year. Normally that's something that reverses itself in sports. It's, that's kind of how it works. And I look for this year for it to be I do for BYU to take a little bit of a step back this year. But the game is in Provo, arguably the loudest stadium in the league with some of the most passionate fans in the league. It's the along with Milan Puskar, it's tied for the largest stadium in the league. It's going to be 60,000 screaming Provo or BYU fans there. So, high on ice cream.
Well, that's
but
okay.
yeah, but sugar rush from ice cream. But anyway, I don't like the fact it's a short week, and I don't like the fact it's in Provo. So I'm putting it down as West Virginia's 3rd straight loss in conference play to drop to 3-3 on the year.
Wow. Okay. You had me wondering what you were going to do. I agree with you in terms of the loss. I've got West Virginia losing this game, going to 4-2. You kind of touched based on it, really, Couz. I think the short week and the travel. Look, if roles were reversed, right, and it was the short week and BYU was coming to Morgantown, that might be the one that flips it over for me. But because it's the opposite. The thing about BYU is they are the opposite of Kansas and they're the opposite of Utah, right? I mean, they were surprised. 9-0 start to the season, finished 11-2. We all know the success they had last year. I think the quarterback issue and the just complete uncertainty around that position, it leaves the door open for me to pick West Virginia to win that game. But again, as I stated, I just fall back on West Virginia's short week, and my mind mentally goes to where is West Virginia at this point in the season, right? As if Pitt's not tough enough, you've got a Kansas on the road. You've got a big Utah who you predicted a loss. I went with the win, but either way, that's going to be a tough game. And then, boom, you're on a plane going out west to a tough place to play. So I agree with you. I think West Virginia can win that football game. And it wouldn't shock me if West Virginia won that football game. But I have it down as a loss, putting them at 4-2, and you have them at 3-3.
Yep. Hey, do me a favor. Go check out my good friends over at Appalachia Digital. If you need a brand new website for your small business, or if you're just looking to get found easier on Google, go check out AppalachiaDigital.com/Couz. These are the fine folks who designed my brand new website over at WVSportsChat.com. They did a fantastic job. I love their work. I think you will too. So go check them out. AppalachiaDigital.com/Couz. Let them know Couz sent you. Now let's get back to the show. All right. Now, West Virginia gets a bye after that short week. They do get a bye, which does give them an extra day off, I guess. but then the 18th of October, they are on the road again to face the UCF Knights in the Bounce House in Orlando. It'll be hot in October in Florida. I actually went to this game a couple years ago, and it was like really, really hot, miserably hot, actually. But I came home with a pretty bad sunburn. But anyway, uh, I like West Virginia here. It's you got two coaches both coming back to their former stops. Rich Rod and West Virginia has over 70 new players. UCF has about 67 or so new players, so
Yeah.
just a few less. To me, it all comes down to I think Rich Rod. This is about the time West Virginia is going to start playing a lot better football. I think they're going to be, you look back at Jacksonville State last year, and you've heard Rich Rod talk about how it took them 3 games before they
Yeah.
kind of got things rolling. It might take a little bit longer at West Virginia just because of it's a higher level and the schedule's tougher. And I just
Yeah.
don't like the way some of these games lay out. But I think by now they'll be playing good football. I think they'll have their established starters. And I just think Rich Rodriguez is a better coach than Scott Frost. And I think West Virginia
Yeah.
goes to the bounce house and wins this game.
Yeah. If we don't hear like the song Reunited and it feels so good for this game, I want no part of it. Rich Rod back, Scott Frost back. This is a win for me. I think West Virginia traditionally plays good football going to Orlando. And so you stated it perfect. If anybody has more questions than West Virginia, could it be UCF? Right? I mean, they just returned one starter on offense. They've got a new defensive coordinator, and they've got a whole lot of new players on defense as well. This is one for me that it's even though it's on the road, I predicted a loss at BYU, so it's kind of a good bounce back for the team. Really, not a whole lot to say here. I completely agree with you that I think at this point in time, West Virginia is catching their stride, and like you said, if you look back last year, it's about the point where Jacksonville State kind of started to take off just a little bit. So, yeah, I've got West Virginia winning the football game, and I've got them going to 5-2 uh, on the season.
Yeah, you've got them at 5-2. I've got them at 4-3. And I do want to say, UCF is known to be really good in the bounce house. But
Yeah,
the game I went to a couple years ago, no offense to UCF people, but I wasn't overly impressed. But they did, they had a lot of empty seats. The team wasn't doing very well that year. So by this time in the year, fans were already starting to get apathetic. So, there were a lot of empty seats. So it wasn't quite as loud as I was expecting it to be. But they do normally play well at home. But
yeah,
again, I think West Virginia will be the better team with a better coach. That's why I picked them to win it.
yeah,
October 25th, West Virginia comes back to Morgantown to face a team who I think is probably not getting enough love, and that's the TCU Horned Frogs.
yeah,
I actually really like this football team in TCU. I mean, Josh Hoover's one of the best quarterbacks, not only in the Big 12, but arguably in the country. You've got 14 starters coming back. They only had to go out and get 10 transfers. That's how confident Sonny Dykes is in his team. I've
yeah.
heard him say it's the deepest team he's had since he's been there. Keep in mind they played in the national championship about 3 or 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
8 starters back on defense, one of the best secondaries in the country. I just think you add all that up, man. I think that even
Mm,
though it's in Morgantown, I'm marking this down as a loss for the Mountaineers. TCU wins it in Morgantown.
okay.
West
So,
Virginia drops to 4-4.
okay. Do you remember earlier, Couz, when I said I looked at the Utah game and I thought there's got to be one, right? There were a couple of those games where I thought, is this the one? But I went with Utah. The reason I went with Utah was because I didn't pick TCU. It's a loss for me. And you said it perfect. Here's the thing about TCU. They're is sneaky good the right word here? They won 5 games in
Yeah,
2023, 9 games last year. They almost just seem to be that team that's just kind of on that upward trajectory that nobody's really talking a lot about. Um, one of the reasons why I went with West Virginia on the win at home over Utah was, even though I like what Utah brought in at the quarterback position, it's a new year for him there. It's not a new year for Josh Hoover.
Nope.
His third season, almost 4,000 yards last year, 27 touchdowns. I really, really like what he has to offer. It almost, and I know it's going to be a different team, but that offense almost kind of reminds me of what we saw Baylor last year when they came into Morgantown. Going to pick you apart a little bit, but they're going to take those shots downfield. It's hard for me to say this because we don't quite know yet, but this just seems like it seems to me like a team that just knows what they're doing and they're kind of a well-oiled machine versus a team that, even if they're kind of finding their ways, just not quite there yet. So yeah, I've got West Virginia losing this game. This is the one of those that I thought, and I went the other direction on this one. So I've got West Virginia losing and going to 5-3, 5-3 on the season.
Okay. So you have them at 5-3. I have them at 4-4 at this point. I do, TCU does have some question marks at the running back position, but man, most of the other positions on that team are really solid. And I really think that I think they're a dark horse to win the conference. I really do.
Because Josh Hoover is really good, really good, and he's comfortable in the system now. And it's rare that you see a player in today's day and age, if you want to say it, that's back for their third season as a starter.
Yep.
And he's just so comfortable. I really, really like TCU. Now, it is a little bit interesting. They've got a tricky schedule. They're on the road a lot to some tougher games in the Big 12. I think they played North Carolina and Bill Belichick's opener, maybe.
Yeah.
But I like them.
They have the toughest schedule in the conference. I don't even think it's close.
Yeah.
They might be one of those teams, and I said they're a dark horse to win the league. I'm not. I probably shouldn't have said that because I wasn't taking their schedule into account. I think if you look at their talent, they have the ability to win the league. Yeah. But I think the schedule is going to prevent it from happening. That's the problem. They play 5 road games against some of the best teams in the league, at least on paper. But who knows? We know how the Big 12 is, right? The teams we think are going to be at the top could end up being at the bottom. So
yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and jump to the next game, which is November 1st. They go to the Houston Cougars. Dana Holgerson won't be there this time. It'll be a Willie Fritz-led Houston team, a team who I think, some people are expecting to sneak up on some people. They snuck up on a couple teams last year late in the year. Willie Fritz is a good coach. What are you thinking about this game, Jonathan? What you got?
Yeah, Houston just hasn't had a lot of success, Couz. Since joining the Big 12, 4-8 in 2 seasons with 2 different head coaches. I agree with you that I like Willie Fritz, but Couz, they brought in 27 players from the portal just hoping to strike gold here. They did bring in a Texas A&M 5-star recruit, a quarterback in Connor. I think it's Weigman. Pardon me for not having that down. So I do think they will be better. But I have this as a win for West Virginia. It just feels like if you're West Virginia and you're going to start picking some games away, this is one that just has to be a part of that. So I have West Virginia winning that game. I actually think that there will be a decent contingent of West Virginia fans there for that game. So West Virginia improves to 6-3 on the season.
Yep. I've also got this as a win for the Mountaineers. Houston. They lost 7 starters on the defensive side of the ball. I do like Connor Weigman's talent, but man, he's battled some injuries throughout his career. He's been inconsistent. He really hasn't lived up to that 5-star billing yet. A lot of people think he can finally do that at Houston. I guess time will tell. A lot of question marks at the skill positions for me for Houston. New defensive coordinator coming in. I just think there's too many question marks. I think West Virginia is going to be the better football team, and I think West Virginia gets the W in Texas on November 1st.
Yep.
So I've got them at 5-4 at this point.
Yep. And I'm at 6-3.
All right.
So we're right there. We're right there.
All right. November 8th, West Virginia returns to Morgantown. There's a trend here, right? Returns to Morgantown to face the Fighting Primes. The Colorado Buffaloes, baby. Um, Coach Prime brings his Buffaloes to Morgantown on November the 8th. This is a game I think most Mountaineer fans are excited about. Probably
Yeah,
have circled on their calendar after the Pitt game, of course. It's going to be exciting to see Coach Prime come bring his guys to Morgantown. A lot of, as usual, there's a lot of hype around Colorado. Not as much as in the past, but a lot. Um, as I was digging in doing my research on Colorado, Jonathan, I started out thinking, man, I think this is going to be a loss for West Virginia. But the more I do, the more research I did, man, Colorado lost a ton of talent. Man, they
yeah.
lost.
Oh,
Obviously, we know
yeah,
about Shador. We know about Travis Hunter. They lost a lot of pieces from that really talented defense that led the Big 12 in sacks a year ago.
yeah,
They lost a lot of those guys. They lost 8 starters on D to be exact, right?
yeah,
The 2 quarterback, they did bring in 2 very talented quarterbacks, Caden Salter, the transfer from Liberty, who has 2 or 3 years of starting experience under his belt. I think he's thrown for like 5,000 yards in his career or something crazy like that. They've got freshman Julian Lewis. I think they call him Juju. Extremely talented. I think he's a 5-star recruit, if I'm not mistaken, or at least a 4-star.
yeah.
Who wins that job? Coach Prime seems to think they'll both play some. But man, when you just look at what they've lost versus what they're bringing back, it's hard to replace talent like Shador and Travis Hunter. Uh, I think they take a step back on defense, and I think they take a step or two back overall. And it's in Morgantown. I like West Virginia here. I got West Virginia with the W.
Okay. So my question here is, will the real Colorado please stand up? And what I mean by that is because if you go back 2 seasons ago, it was pretty rocky, right? Last year it was 9-4, and they were successful. But are we going to get first year prime, or did they just strike gold and have Shador and Travis Hunter last year to get them to 9 wins? So are we going to go back? I mean, truth be told, I don't think you can replace Shador. I think you can bring in Salter, and I know they're really high on Lewis, um, but Shador was a pretty good football player, and I can promise you this: you're not replacing Travis Hunter. You're just not going to. Um, Dion did typical Dion, and he hit the portal hard. Um, I tend to think they're more 2023 than they are 2024. I don't think you can replace those 2 players. Um, Again, this is another one. I talked about this earlier. If West Virginia were going to Boulder, Colorado, I might give you a different answer here. But because and I'll be curious to see where Colorado is at this point in the season, right? Um, are they feeling pretty good about themselves, or did it just go south? Right. And with drama and with all that social media stuff, if it goes south, it goes south in a hurry. So I actually have it as a win for West Virginia. You've got them at 6-4. That puts me having them at 7-3.
Okay. One thing that does scare me a little bit is, well, 2 things really. Obviously, Colorado, yes, they hit the portal, but they got a lot of talented guys coming in. And 2, they've played very well on the road. At least they did last year. They
Yeah.
ended up winning 4 straight road games last year. So, Dion seems to be really good at getting his teams to play well on the road. But it's a late November game uh,
In
it,
Morgantown.
in Morgantown. So I like the Mountaineers here. All
Yeah.
right, November the 15th, another game that Mountaineer fans should be excited about. They travel out west for the second time to face a newcomer. I get they're not really a newcomer at this point, but one of the 4 corner schools in Arizona State on the road, the defending Big 12 champions. What you got?
It's a tough way to kind of begin to close your season out, right? I'd feel a lot better if this game was in Morgantown, but it's not. Um, I don't think there is a little bit of uncertainty around Arizona State just because they kind of came out of nowhere, right? I mean, was last year a fluke? Can they repeat that magic again? I mean, 11-3 last year, Big 12 champs. Cam Scatteraboo, the running back, is off to the NFL, I think, with the Giants. So can they repeat that? I think they can. I love the coaching staff there. They lost Scadaboo to the NFL, but they're returning nearly everybody else. Um, I just don't see a world, unfortunately, Couz, where West Virginia goes out and gets this one. Um, so it's a loss for me, and that I guess puts them at 7-4.
Yeah, I got it as a loss as well. They were you mentioned bringing about everybody back. They bring back 17 starters,
Yeah,
including 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen. Their quarterback, receiver. I would argue one of the best. I would argue it could be the best receiver quarterback duo in the country with
yeah.
Jordan Tyson and Sam Levitt.
Sam Levitt, yeah,
Sam Levitt's in the Heisman Conference preseason Heisman talk. Jordan Tyson had over 1,000 yards receiving a year ago. Uh, yes, they lost Scadaboo. I actually would not be surprised if Arizona State, you know, I don't know that they'll win 11 games again this year. But I do
I
see them
agree.
being a really good. I do see them being a really good football team, and I think they're better than the Mountaineers this year because of the returning production and because of the continuity.
Yeah,
And so I'm giving them the advantage here, and the fact it's on the road. So I'm giving the advantage to Arizona State. West Virginia drops another one to
yeah,
drop to, for me, 6-5 on the season.
yep.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. Rivalry week, I guess you
Yeah,
could say. Thanksgiving week. After a bye, West Virginia does now. Oh, and let me back up. By the way, Arizona State is also coming off a bye before they play West Virginia,
yeah.
whereas
They're-
West Virginia will just have finished up playing Colorado. So West Virginia has 3 teams on their schedule coming off a bye when they play them. Fortunately, and one of those is Texas Tech. Fortunately, West Virginia's coming off a bye as well. Really weird place to have a bye week, next to the last week of the season. But what you got in this one, Jonathan?
Couz, you remember whenever you drop balloons?
Yeah, I don't know how I did it. I'll do it again. But
Do do you have anything that can drop money?
no, I don't. If I did, we wouldn't be
Because
doing this show.
because Texas because Texas Tech spent a lot of it, and if you don't have
Yeah,
anything to drop money, it's because Texas Tech spent it all.
yeah,
Because they spent a lot of money,
yeah.
and I mean a lot of money. Um, I really like Texas Tech. Now, here's the question mark for me. First off, I think Joey McGuire is a heck of a coach, Texas legend. I think he's going to do really good there. And you're starting to see that trend, right? Um, but but when you go out and spend this much money, um, the question's always in the back of your mind: is it going to be money well spent? Do people start playing for money, or they start playing for the Red Raiders? And they spent a ton of it. They did have the number one transfer portal class per on three. When I was studying Texas Tech, this was an interesting one for me. They added 13 new players who were rated a 4-star or higher. Um, in addition, they've got preseason all Big 12 defensive linemen, David Bailey and Lee Hunter, so they're good on the defensive side of the ball. Baron Morton is back at quarterback. He's going to make some mistakes. He's going to throw some interceptions, but you know what else he's going to do? He's going to sling it and throw some free yards. So I like Texas Tech. I feel like a broken record here. This is a game that I just thought I could go either way. Um, but I've actually got West Virginia losing back-to-back games to end the season. I think Texas Tech uh, is likely a better football team with the talent that they've brought in. And I have West Virginia falling, losing back-to-back games, and going to 7-5 in the regular season.
I too went back and forth on this one. Again, I changed my mind on 2 different occasions here. I've got a lot of scribbles on my paper.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, now I will tell you this: as I was researching this, I'm not sure. Everybody wants to talk about how many great players we heard. Remember how we heard all that about Texas A&M several years ago too. Remember now,
Right.
not really apples to apples because that was a lot of true freshmen that they were spending money on. This is
Right.
transfers. I get it,
Right.
but still a lot of questions. Can they gel together?
Sure.
Just because they're good don't mean they'll gel together. And 2, something that I think a lot of people might be overlooking, and something I had overlooked until now. Texas Tech is bringing in 2 new coordinators this year.
Yep.
How does that translate, right? So, I think that's something. Are they still going to play that fast-paced? I'm assuming they'll still play a fast-paced, hurry-up style offense, which is one thing. I think this is a game West Virginia may not be able to use that to as much of an advantage because Texas Tech's defense will be accustomed to playing against it a little bit, right? So I'm not sure it'll be the advantage it is against other opponents, maybe. So, Texas Tech, they're, like you said, Baron Morton's going to sling it all over the field. They have one of the best defensive lines in the country.
Yeah.
I am a little bit, if I'm a Texas Tech fan, I'm a little bit concerned about the fact Joey McGuire has a 6-10 road record since he's been the coach there. For whatever reason, he struggles to win on the road.
How concerned are you November 29th in Morgantown? Weather?
It's going to be cold. It'll be cold by then. My bride will probably not want to attend this game for that reason. And heck, if it's bad enough, I might not attend this game. I'm kind of a wuss too as I get older about weather. But anyway, I've got West Virginia losing this one. I just think at the end of the day, it comes down to the Jimmies and the Joes. I think Texas Tech's going to have more talent. I do think Joey McGuire is a good football coach. Now, is Texas Tech going to win the Big 12? I don't necessarily think so, but I still think they're going to be pretty good, and I think they'll be better than West Virginia on this night in Morgantown, November 29th. And I've got West Virginia going 6-6 in the first year of Rich Rod 2.0.
Okay. So I'm just looking down at a bunch of notes.
But that's 3-6 in the Big 12, by the way, which is not good.
Yeah, so that's going to put me, I guess, 4-5. So yeah, I'm just looking at a bunch of notes that I've wrote down. I thought it was interesting that you actually have them mid-season on a 3-game losing streak and have them ending the season on a 2-game losing streak. I do not have that mid-season losing streak, but you and I are in agreement on losing 2 to finish the season. I don't think that that's any fault necessarily of West Virginia's, and I think you would agree with me on that. I think it's just going to Arizona State and then Texas Tech at home. That's just a tough way to finish it. I think if it was reversed and West Virginia went to, say, Houston and home against Colorado, right?
Yeah.
We may have that reversed, obviously.
Right.
So I don't think that's necessarily a knock on West Virginia. I think the big question comes here now, Couz, that we've got 6-6, 7-5 is if this does become a reality, what's the perception across the board, across the hills of West Virginia? What's the perception, and are people going to be okay with that? Here's going to be my take, and I've said this before. I hate to bring it up, but people were so deflated after the years of Neil Brown, and it seems like consistently that stuck in that rut of 5 and 6 wins, that I think you almost have to have a little bit more success, or it can be interpreted as, here we go again. We brought Rich Rodriguez back to do the same thing. We should have just kept Neil. I want to be really careful that we don't get into that, and that doesn't overshadow the 70 new players, the changing of the culture, the changing of the scheme, right? I know it's just one game. And I didn't pick it because of this. It's just how it fell. And I can tell you up until about 3 minutes before you and I got face to face here, I can show you the notes, brother. I was still back and forth. So I didn't arrive at 7 wins because of this. But I think that seventh win is a huge, huge thing for Rich Rodriguez in year 1. There is such a difference in a 6th win and a 7th win. It's just a mindset, right? So,
well, you're guaranteed a winning season,
right,
even if you lose your bowl game, right?
right.
Where if you're 6-6 and you lose your bowl game, you're 6-7. You're a below average football team.
Yeah. So for those reasons, I hope I'm right. just because I think it's more than just one win on the record. I think it just does so much for the fan base, for the mentality, and it gives you that opportunity for that eighth win. And I think if you signed off on 8 wins right now, I think everybody in West Virginia would say, "Give me a pin." So, and let me also say too, and then I guess I'll kind of wrap up my part of it a little bit. Is I did text you earlier that I felt like when I started really, really, really looking at this schedule, there's opportunity here. We talk about West Virginia has a lot of question marks. Well, guess what? So do a lot of these teams, right? Last year, if we want to give Neil Brown the benefit of the doubt a little bit, because he had to face Kansas State, he had to face Penn State, he had to face Iowa State.
Yeah.
What's missing on this schedule? I'll tell you what's missing. Kansas State's missing. Baylor's missing.
Iowa State.
Iowa State's missing. So,
but so is Oklahoma State, and so is Cincinnati.
Correct. But
Yeah.
I think outside
and Arizona, who's probably not going to be very good.
Right. But I think outside of a trip to Arizona, I mean, when you look at these games, nothing screamed other than maybe Arizona State. Nothing screamed no chance, right? I mean, I look Kansas, I debated. Utah, I debated. We debated BYU, UCF, TCU, Houston. I mean, if TCU is our pretty much, I just don't see it. If that's the second tier, I just don't see it. There's some winnable games here. So I can't wait to see it play out. I just can't wait.
Jonathan, this season, man, I mean, really for the last couple of months, I've had either a 6-6, 7-5 year in my head. That's where I felt like they were going to be, that I was going to land somewhere there. And as I went through the schedule, I ended up landing at 6-6. It could very easily have been 7-5. Could have very easily been 5-7, to be honest. At the end of the day, this is all just for fun. I mean, this could go.
Sure.
West Virginia could end up going 3-9. I hope to God that don't happen. Or they could end up going 9-3. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Because you just don't have a clue because of the players and the conference, like we talked about. They play 3 teams who were expected to compete for a conference title this year: Arizona State, Texas Tech, and Utah, right? But they also play some teams, and then they play some teams who were supposed to be middle of the pack.
Yeah.
So it's just
yeah.
hard. It's hard to gauge. But to me, not only was I looking at opponents as we commented, but where do the games fall?
Right.
Where are they played? And what are the circumstances around the game, like bye weeks, all those short week versus long week? Those things to me play a factor in these things. And I'm like you though. I don't want fans. And by the way, even though I'll pick 6-6, they at least be. If you win 6 games and you beat Pitt, I think the majority of the fan base is going to be like, okay, we get it. It's year one. As long as you see a better brand of football on the field than what we've seen the past 6 years, I think majority of fans are knowledgeable enough to know we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Now, if they go out here and get blown out in some of these losses, especially to close the season, then there's some room. Then we're concerned, right?
Yeah.
But if you finish 6-6, you beat Pitt, the team's more fun to watch. They're playing with that hard edge. You don't see players not hustling. They don't come out and lose 52 to whatever in the last game of the season. They basically look like they just gave up. You don't see that type of stuff. I think majority of fans are going to be like, not great, but it is what it is. Yeah. You're always going to have that group, and then most of it is the West Virginia Facebook crowd who hate Rich Rodriguez anyway. They're obviously going to be like, see, we told you so. There's always going to be that crowd, but I think most fans would be, I don't want to say happy about a 6-6 season, but I think they would be still confident that the program's moving in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, here
that makes sense.
It does. And here's one thing we do know for certainty. This isn't going to go as planned. You look back to last season. Um, I didn't see Arizona struggling. I didn't see Utah struggling. I didn't see Oklahoma State struggling. And by
Right.
the same token, I didn't see BYU having the success that they were having. And do we remember Arizona State was finished towards the bottom in
Mm.
some predict? I think the bottom. Um, but my notes, I had my record 7-5, and just underneath it, you probably won't be able to see it. I wrote 8-4, very possible. Underneath that, 6-6, very possible.
Yeah.
So
You think that's the floor though?
I do. I do.
Okay.
I do because I think that there's so many question marks around a lot of teams, right? I look at I look at where I think games fall, where I think that coaching will come into play, and I'm high on Rich Rodriguez. I think he's going to establish that culture. I think that hard edge mentality is going to win over, and I think that's going to play out. And so I do. I put 8-4 very possible. I think it's probably more realistic to go 7-5, which is why I went that direction. But I just think when I run through this roster or this schedule more so than ever, because you could probably say it every year, but more so than ever, I've just got so many questions.
Mhm.
So many questions about every single team. I mean, you
Yeah.
look, I mean, Kansas, Jalen Daniels always hurt. Utah, brand new quarterback. BYU, brand new quarterback. UCF, brand new system, which is why I was so high on TCU because there's a little bit of continuity there. So the question marks just run wild on every team that it just somehow I think it just washes out and it's almost 50-50, which is why I went just a hair above at
Yeah.
7-5.
Yeah. I just think it's unrealistic to expect a team with 70 plus new players to be any better than a 7-win football team. I'm
Yeah,
not saying it's not I'm not saying it's not possible. It's just hard to do, man.
it's tough.
Especially in a conference that with so many teams who were from a talent perspective are basically all even.
Mhm.
Let's face it, there's very little. Texas Tech may be the exception because of the money they spent, but I mean outside of that, most of these teams in this conference are pretty darn even when it comes to talent.
Yeah, absolutely.
It comes down to coaching. It comes down to who's healthy. It comes down to, just little things, right? Little things are going to make a difference. And I just think it's, these fans are out here going, West Virginia's going to win 9 or 10 football games. I just don't think that's realistic, man. Now they might shock me and go out and do what Indiana did, but even Indiana only had about 40 new players, not 70,
Mhm.
you know? I just think it's unrealistic to expect anything more than a 7-win season.
I think
I'll
you
definitely
can.
take it, but I don't think it's realistic.
I think you can be hopeful to beat Indiana.
Yes,
I don't think you can hang your hat on being Indiana.
correct. And Indiana played a very, very weak schedule too. Let's not forget that.
And absolutely, and I think if this football team wins 7 games, you need to be hugging a lot of people's necks because that's a great season, all things
Considered.
considered. It really is.
I'd feel
So
really good if they win 7 games. I'm feeling, assuming you don't lose most of the team to this portal, I'm feeling great about 2026. Aren't
absolutely,
you?
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'd even shrink that down a little bit. I think if West Virginia does win those first 3 games, I'm feeling pretty confident about the season. So. Yeah, absolutely. I think if you can get to that 7th win, you should be tickled to death about how the season went.
Yep. All right. Well, man, it's been fun.
Oh
We
yeah,
almost did it in an hour. We almost did it in an hour.
we could probably go for another hour.
We probably could, but they're going to get tired of hearing us talk at some point.
Yeah,
So, well, thanks to everybody for tuning in. Once again, shout out to our sponsor, Appalachia Digital. If you're looking for someone to build you a new website, go check them out. The site, Jonathan and I are overseeing right now, which you see the logo behind me, wvsportschat.com. They were the folks who designed it. They did a good job on it. They will do a good job for you as well. Thank them for supporting us, what we're doing here and over at the site. Again, AppalachiaDigital.com/Couz. Let them know I sent you. They can also, if you already have a site, they can also help you get found easier on Google and help you with your SEO. Also want to remind you folks, if you're listening on podcast, please do us a favor, hit that 5-star review or give us that 5-star review and hit that follow button. Make sure you follow us. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel here at Couz's Corner, and make sure to share this with your family and friends. Jonathan, I appreciate you as always, man, for joining the show, and look forward to doing it again next week, hopefully.
Sounds good.
Everybody, hope the rest of your day's top shelf. God bless, and Q Country Roads.